So it's great to be with you. We're in Manhattan, uptown Manhattan, in our apartment with our two cats, two Maine Coons. They're huge cats. If you know what a Maine Coon is, you know how big they are. And
they may make an appearance.
They may make an appearance. I'd like to say hello first of all to our teacher, Diane. She's there in the middle of our screen. Diane Sensei. Out on, well, she'll introduce us. They will introduce themselves. So, Koshin, should we go from the top? So, your name, or even though we see it, just to identify yourself, your name, 2 words of how you're feeling in this moment, 2 feeling words, and fine is not a feeling word, so don't use that. And
what would be helpful?
Yeah, 2 words. How are you feeling in this moment? What would be helpful to you this evening, and where you're from? So that's 3 things. Your name, what would be helpful, and where you are. 2 feeling words. Where you from? 4 words. 4 of them. You'll get it. Sandra will lead the way.
Good night. My name is Sandro. I'm from Brazil. Now I am in the city of Crato, Ceará, northeast of Brazil. And I'm very happy and curious. And I want to know, I want to learn with your experience, because I intend to work in this area too in the future. And for me, it's very, very nice to be here. Thank you.
Koshin Stewart, a wonderful Shuso right now.
Good evening. My name is Koshin, and I am feeling grateful and weary, and I'm currently in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And what would be helpful to me this evening would be to be able to just listen fully and take it all in.
Myoshin.
Hi, I'm Myoshin. I'm the Director of Membership and Programs with ZPI, and I'm in Mesa, Arizona, the land of Yavapai Nation and Maricopa Nation. I'm feeling excited and grateful. And I'm really open to learning about anything that senseis will have to say. I'm really grateful that they're here. But I'm teaching spiritual formation to Buddhist chaplain students at University of the West right now and online. And I want to take something to them. Your wisdom as Buddhist chaplains to the chaplain students.
Ellen's iPad O'Connell.
Good evening, I'm Ellen. I'm in White Plains, New York. I'm feeling tiny bit anxious, but curious. And I can honestly say I do expect that everything I hear tonight will be helpful. I come from a family which honestly, for all my life, a long life, has done everything possible to ignore the reality of death and try to distance from it as much as possible. And so I find myself struggling with it as I age. So that's part of why I'm here. Thank you.
Linda.
I'm Linda. I'm from Rhode Island. I'm feeling a bit tense today and also very thankful to be here. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Anna.
Hello, I'm Anna, and I am actually joining you all from Snohomish traditional lands, which is also known today as Whidbey Island in Washington State in the United States.
What would be helpful?
Yes, I'm very receptive at the moment to whatever you share. Curious at the moment and also very relaxed. So,
Vanwe, Alex?
Wanna go first?
No.
Okay. We're in Australia, in Canberra, on Ngunnawal land. 2 words, I am in pain and I'm curious. And I don't really know. Alex told me about this, so I kind of not really sure what's happening. But I know, I'm here because I'm chronically ill and I'm interested in kind of engaging with that space in a Zen context.
Alex?
I'm also on Ngunnawal land. And I'm feeling calm and excited. And yeah, I guess I'm just interested in hearing your point of view. I'm Mwanwi's carer, so there might be something helpful for that role. So yeah, thank you for being here.
Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm he, him, my pronouns. I'm up on the unceded territories of the Lekwungen people on what is known as Vancouver Island, just off the coast of BC. So not far away from our friend in Washington State, I think. Okay. I'm feeling soaked because it's suddenly started to rain on this side of the country, which is fantastic. I've just come in. And I guess turbulent, I think is the word, because being on unceded territory today, as some of you know, is the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in Canada. So I've been trying to sort of feel my way through that a bit today. What would help today would be steadiness.
Thank you, Chris. Donna Estes.
Hi, I have trouble unmuting. I am feeling all right. I'm looking forward to a trip to Chicago, and first time I've been away in a while. And I'm very interested in the discussion tonight, and I'm here. Thank you.
And our dear teacher, Diane.
Okay, good.
Okay. I'm always delighted to be with my 2 boys and experiencing our evolution separately and together. It's always exciting to feel the commitment and the love that we share, and we share with everybody. It's so, so important. Unconditional love is guiding my life, and my gratitude overflows to be with them and you. So interesting. Life is interesting. Unknowable and interesting. Curiosity is kingpin. So carry on.
Kyoshu?
I'm Kyoshu, excuse me, Kyoshu, and I'm in Seattle, another Northwestern a resident, and I'm feeling chilly in my body and very warm in my heart. And anything and everything will be helpful. I feel like just to be in the presence of quiet contemplation is what will be helpful. Thank you.
And Martine.
Hi, my name is Martine, and I am in Rockville, Maryland, near the Washington, D.C. area. And I'm feeling peaceful. We had a beautiful day. The weather has been so beautiful, and I'm feeling expectant. I'm very interested in this topic for a couple reasons. One, I'm a new Zen teacher in the area, and I often have people coming to me with very difficult life and death questions and issues. And I would like a little heartfelt information to help me and help them. And also, I've heard about the contemplative care program for a long, long time. And so I'm very interested in hearing about it. So I think I answered the questions. Thank you.
Tracy Shoen Scott.
My name is Tracy. My Dharma name, which is new to me, is Shoen. I think somebody like my teacher probably changed it. I am right now in northeastern Pennsylvania, which is in Lenape land, and I just came on this call from another call about spiritual violence in queer communities. I'm feeling very rushed and also feeling very hungry. And I'm curious to see what my teachers are saying in this context outside of the Zendo, which is where I usually hear them talking about it, which is truly, honestly, why I joined this call tonight. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
The mysterious John Parker in his car.
Oh, not mysterious at all. So John Parker, I'm driving from one place where I have family, the land known as New Orleans, or what the Choctaw call Balancha, the land of many tongues. I'm currently driving through Georgia, the land of the Cherokee, home to North Carolina to see family, the land of the Occaneechi and the Tuscarora, the Lumbee, and Catawba. I've been a fan of the center for many years and was very interested in sort of the space in which we can hear about the contemplative medicine. And I would say that my answers of why I'm here in wanting to learn are very similar to Martine's. And in terms of how I'm feeling, I'm content and very curious. Thank you.
Celia.
Hello, my name is Celia. I'm calling in from Laguna Niguel. It's a little town on the coast of Southern California, between LA and San Diego. I'm a little bit tired. Just long day. However, I'm also a learning junkie. So anytime somebody put up some learning, I need to jump in. So I just spent 3 months, got my first CPE in a hospital, and I worked in ICU and oncology. So death and dying is a subject on my mind. So I'm here just to stay as a beginner to can learn something. Thank you.
Joe.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joe Harris. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, on the East Coast. And I became aware of the center probably a few months ago. and very excited to learn more. And what would be most helpful right now would be to cultivate a skill of deep listening without any emotional reactivity at all. I would find that skill to be very helpful at this point. So,
thank you, Joe.
Santiago.
Reveal yourself, Santiago.
Hello. Wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm in Bogota, Colombia. I am a physician and do also acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I work in the final part of life and death. So I took part of the foundations last year, the first out of the presence virtual event that we have in this opportunity. So I'm here to listen. I'm here to, as always, open to learn, open to whatever comes. So thank you so much.
Lovely to see you, Santiago.
Thank you.
What about you, Koshin?
My name is Koshin. I feel totally delighted and a little jazzy now hearing from everybody. I feel very tender and connected. I'm seated on the unceded lands of the Lenape people here in the little, otherwise known as a small barrier island called Manhattan, which you might have heard of. It's off the coast of New Jersey. And
this is Bodhidharma.
Bodhidharma burrito.
This is that baby. There's another one somewhere. This is Bodhidharma, the red beard. And the one that's not around right now is Boychik. So.
And I'm here tonight, and what I want to learn is what's helpful. And it's so interesting, as we were talking, I was thinking about the importance of depth of practice and how that the deep root of practice and how that informs our action. And so I'm really excited to talk about practice, precepts, and the expression which we do through our center, and many people do, called contemplative care or contemplative medicine. Yeah. And who are you? You're quite interesting.
Neither expert nor interesting. Blah, 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 blah. Self-effacing is who I am.
Sometimes.
Bodhisattva self-effacing. I'm Chodo. I'm sitting next to him on the same land in Manhattan. And I'm just thrilled to be here and to share whatever it is that might be of help to all of you, any of you, some of you, and really interested to have a conversation as opposed to some kind of lecture thing. It's like I much prefer back and forth conversation, question and answer, and that kind of thing. Looking forward to this evening, being with you. So, where would you like to start?
Chris has put a question in the chat for you.
I would say perhaps.
And I would say, meow. Gotcha. Chris put is it okay to share it, Chris?
Yeah, I shared it with everyone.
Oh, you shared it with everyone. Oh, okay. Chris asked, has the cat Buddha nature? And my response was, yeah. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the reference, the monk asked Joshu, does the dog have Buddha nature? Joshu responded, moo. So it's kind of a play on moo and meow there, cat and dog. We need to do a stand-up, Chris. We should do like a little duo there.
I would love that. Let's do that.
Teamwork. Okay.
And Carol Sorigliano.
Wow, really?
From back in the day, Carol. You're going to reveal yourself, Carol? Perhaps.
Carol from a long time ago.
Perhaps. So one of the places I wanted to start was the importance of Zazen and the importance of practice. And, you know, I think it was through my own, you know, period of time. I always feel like it's strange when people say, oh, I've been practicing this long or that long, as if that means something, because I don't know if that necessarily means something. But for a period of time I was practicing and then got really curious about how could I bring what I was rooted in out into the world. And I feel like that there's something so powerful about a long, steady Zazen practice with a teacher and with a community. And that eventually, in some ways, my experience is like the natural outflow is, how can I be of help? How can I serve? And as the wonderful Kopo Daishi, who's a great Buddhist teacher in Japan, talked about, you know, the depth of one's practice can be measured by how we're serving others. So in another way that often, like with my Zen students, they say, you know, when they ask me like, well, how am I doing? How am I doing? It's like, well, how are your relationships around you? How are things going? How are your relationships with your neighbors at the grocery store? So I always feel like the beginning of activism is in our homes, in our minds, in our neighborhood. It's such a great place to begin. And please, you know, for me, it's been just the place of beginning to nourish, a place of refuge in the midst of our life. So when we, you know, and Chodo and I went to Japan 20 years ago, 19 years ago, on a tour. It was the 750th anniversary of Dogen's death, who's the founder of the Japanese Soto Zen school. And it was this amazing tour of, you know, and Shohaku Okumura, as some of you might know, was leading the tour. And so we went to and played homage to Dogen at all the places that he practiced. And then after that practice tour and pilgrimage, Chodo and I went to several small countryside temples, which, you know, in Japan, they're thought of as like, oh, it's very small, but like here it'd be like an amazing place, like these incredible, beautiful halls. And we found what was there was these monks who had this temple and practicing Zazen and ritual and caring for the community and caring for people who are sick and caring for people who are ill. And often, like in this one temple that we were in this little fishing village, they opened these shoji screens in the temple and there was a gymnasium in the temple. And he claps his hands and all these kids come running out as a kindergarten and they were sitting in Seiza. And, you know, it was just that this joy of bringing practice into learning and what's possible and what we're offering and how are we embedding ourselves in community and taking care. Yeah. So those are some of the initial thoughts.
Is there a question?
How about you?
About me what? What's the question?
My question for you is, what's your relationship to practice and service?
Okay. My relationship to practice and service. Well, Diane may remember this conversation, but many years ago, we've known each other now for almost 30 years. Many years ago, I was living a very, very different life. And I was in a relationship that I needed to get out of. And I also was in a career that I needed to get out of. And I was having Dokusan with Diane one day, my teacher, and I said, I really need to change my life. And she said, well, get out of it. And I said, yeah, but I have this house, this relationship. I have, my car, my career. And she's like, are you happy? And I said, no. She said, then get out of it. And so I had a friend in Manhattan. I had an apartment here in Manhattan. I was also living out on Long Island and had an apartment here in Manhattan. And so I decided to come back. I'll come back to the city. And a friend of mine said, I said, I don't have a job. I've given up everything. I'm like crazy. I have no money because my ex cleared the bank account and I was too proud to ask for it. So I was like, so I have no money. And he said, well, they're looking for a manager in the restaurant that I work in. I said, oh, I could do that. I'm good with people. I can do that. So I came back into the city and I went to the restaurant for this job as maitre d'. And the manager said, well, actually, in order for us to decide on who's going to be the next manager, you have to wait tables. And I said, I can't wait tables. Do you know what I've just given up? My career as a XYZ. He said, and then I came back to Diane Sensei and I said, listen, they've asked me to wait tables and I can't do that at my age with my life. And she said, I don't know if you remember this time, she said, who do you think you are? Bringing food to people is an act of kindness, no matter where you're doing it, on the street or in a fancy restaurant. You're bringing food, you're serving, you're being of service. So that was a really humbling experience for me. I went back to New York, to Manhattan, waited tables. And in 5 minutes I was managing the place, but it was a real humbling experience for me. And to cut the very long story short, I was sitting on the cushion. I was waiting tables, training to be a chaplain, sitting on the cushion, and it was clearly training chaplain with. I was training in chaplaincy with Koshin and a wonderful Buddhist monk, nun at the time, Jimpu Hirsch, was one of the first Buddhist chaplains in the country. And I knew then that my life would change. Both sitting on the cushion and chaplaincy training. And that's really, it was the turning point. And spent another 2 years being broke and getting trained and met Koshin in a different way. And we started our organization. And I knew from that moment where I wanted to be, in which populations I wanted to serve was the AIDS, HIV population, and being with those who are dying. We're all dying, but being with those who are actively dying, and those along the spectrum. And that's what I do today. I have a number of support groups that I lead for people who are living with terminal illness or grieving or bereavement. So yeah, that's my life, very rich today. No money, but very rich. Carol Sirigliano, you can't be a stranger. You can't stay mysterious all night. I need to see you. Chris.
Thank you both. I have to ask you a question now, Chodo. Is that okay, about your story?
You can ask the question. I'm not going to promise an answer. How's that?
That seems fair. So there's this wonderful pivotal moment in your story when you're having your interview with the wonderful Diane, and somewhere between having that conversation and heading off to the rest of your life, you made a momentous decision that vanished in your story. So I guess I'm interested in how your practice supported that courage at that moment.
Well, I've always been a survivor. I've always, from a very early age, and I always intuitively, I will put it down to intuition. Intuitively, I always kind of knew what I needed to do, and oftentimes I needed a little kick in the ass to do it. So I knew that I had to get out of this relationship. I knew I had to get out of the life that I was living, which was something I had always dreamed of. When I got there, it was a hell realm for many reasons. And so when Diane said, then get out, I just needed someone to tell me, you're making the right decision. There's the shift. So I owe a lot to Diane Sensei, even though she doesn't remember most of the stuff, or pretends she doesn't remember. She's a trickster. She's Trickster Sensei. And there's Carol.
Hello, Carol.
Hey, stranger from a long time ago. How are you? Mwah, mwah.
Good.
So good to see you, Carol.
Where are you, Carol? Let us know.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm in the Berkshires. I moved up here 10 years ago. Have a wonderful sangha up here as well that I've been given dispensation by Roshi, and I can do what I could do after my own continued studies intensely, and we're doing great. We're doing great. 82 years old.
Mazel tov.
Husband is 88.
Jesus.
Anytime you get in touch with me, you take a ride up here, you've got a delicious meal waiting for you.
Excellent. All right.
Go right back. I'm listening. I'm intense. Go ahead. Go.
Any other questions before we kind of move into? Actually, good to know what you would like to know. Miosha.
So why chaplaincy though, for both of you? What prompted you to that particular field, which was probably uncharted for Buddhists at the time?
Yeah, we were the first Buddhist cohort.
So I was the primary care person and care partner with my grandmother, my grandma Mimi, who was this amazing woman, this little Hungarian immigrant. She was 5'2", and then eventually like 4'10". And it was through that experience of being with her. And then when she moved into hospice, she was really curious person. And she was the kind of person that actually continues to be a model of listening for me. She was really like, when you're with her, she was not anywhere else. She was not distracted. She didn't look away. She would remember everything about you. And so actually a lot of our Dharma friends used to love to go and actually spend time with her like I'd show up at her house and like other friends of mine would be there. And it was through her dying process where in the hospice, she and I had a lot of really meaningful conversations, and Chodo was coming in and taking care of her, painting her toes, giving her pedicures, talking to her. And she said, one night, she said, I never thought I'd say this, but there's something to the Zen. She's like, you should start some kind of nonprofit organization and bring the Zen together with how to pay attention and to care for people. Because she said, all these doctors and nurses, and she's like, she's like, and the rabbi, forget it. She's like, they don't know, they're all well-meaning, but don't know how to be with their fear. And so we thought that was like an amazing idea. So the New York Zen Center really was, the real founder of it is Mimi Schwartz, and it was her idea. So we wanted to get training, right? And So as Chodo was saying, that the first accredited chaplaincy educator was this woman, and it's this woman, Trudy Hirsch, Jimpu, and she started this first like kind of Buddhist chaplaincy group, you know, and we joined that, and we just were like, as the expression is, ducks to water. And it was just very clear that before we would like start some organization, we needed some serious training. So we engaged in many units of CPE and ongoing, and Chodo and I are both trained as psychoanalysts, and we just got lots of training, and as in addition to our many years of Buddhist practice and steady practice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we could wax poetically about our life stories for the next 10 years, but I'm really interested in what you're interested in as far as the work is concerned. Are you interested in training? What are your thoughts around dying, your fears, your questions? And not just about dying, but living and working with others in the field.
In training.
And how do you take care of you, and how do you take care of others in your life? So maybe we could open the conversation leaning more towards caring for self and others, and how that appears in our lives. And
wondering where Chris goes.
I'm wondering where Chris goes. And the lady, where happened to the lady? Is it Gail? Just finished a CPE unit. They disappeared. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
I'm wondering about the practice of caring for somebody else, how one maintains one's own boundaries and doesn't get really kind of swept up in that suffering. Like, just, I find that I just get overwhelmed. Sometimes I kind of take it all on, and I like over identify with the suffering of somebody else, and that actually makes me less effective. I was wondering if you had any advice on being able to be present and open to the suffering without getting completely lost in it.
We can talk about, there are 3 tenets that we work with in our training from the Zen Peacemaker order, which are not knowing, bearing witness, and compassionate action, or loving action. Not knowing, bearing witness, compassionate, loving action. And we use these 3 tools, or these 3 tenets, in pretty much everything we do. So when it comes to taking care of others, for myself, I always carry these 3 tenets in the back of my mind. So not knowing, I don't know what I'm walking into at any moment, any given moment. I can have a history of someone, I can know them for the whole of my life, but in this next moment, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea who they're going to be and how I'm going to be in relationship to this person. So I could have a life of taking care of, I'm just going to throw this out there, and so I don't want to offend anyone. I could have a life of taking care of my piss-assed mother, who drives me crazy, because she's always whining and yada, 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 and she's always angry, yada, yada, yada. And now she's dying and she's driving me up the wall. Can I allow for the possibility of a moment of meeting her where she is in her suffering, and not getting caught up in it, knowing that this is hers and this is mine. I don't have to do this. I can do this. I can meet you, but I don't have to get entrenched in your stuff, and I don't want you entrenched in my stuff. So that's kind of the not knowing, and the bearing witness, just bearing witness to that suffering, to that person, allowing them to be who they are. We're all going to have our suffering and our pain. Can I allow them to have that experience in their life and not try to fix anything? That's the big thing. We want to fix. I can't fix you. I can bear witness to you. I can be with you in your suffering. I can't fix it. I can hold you. I can create a container in which I can hold you with compassion and love and dignity. But I can't fix you. And loving, compassionate action, sometimes it's doing absolutely nothing. It's just sitting there, again, bearing witness, not knowing what's arising. Just be there. I mean, and this is so easy to say, these three tenets, this is how I do it, yada, 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 yada. Sometimes all that goes out the window. And I find myself sitting in a bucket of shit thinking, here I am, I've been doing this for years and years and years, and I've got it down pat, boom. And then, one moment, something will be triggered, or they'll say something, or I'll realize, you know what, I don't know shit. And that's okay too. So to just, the fan way is to, the idea is to be gentle with oneself. When we're able to be gentle with, when I'm able to be gentle with myself, with all my stuff, there's a possibility of me being gentle with the person in front of me, no matter how they present. So, and that's part of the work that we train. It's part of the work that, it's part of the work we live by. And as I said, it ain't easy. No one's saying it is, but.
And along with that, I think one of the things that is very important for us, and also I always feel like I attribute to my grandmother, is that, she's like, if you're so depleted, that's what you're doing to me. She's like, no thanks, And so she would like send me out to go for a walk, she's like, get some sunshine, get a mani-pedi, do something, And as we've been training doctors and different people for about 15 years. And what to me is one of the things that we hear all the time, and this is really interesting because we hear it across this country and internationally, is that people are constantly saying like, oh, I know I should do my self-care. I'm not doing whatever that is. But also it's, we're practicing a tradition, in a Zen tradition, that is really about oneness. So to realize, like what my grandmother did, which she did in her own way, was like, we are actually what can be healing. So if we're not including ourselves in care, then that is what we're offering other people. So we're depleted, we're exhausted, we don't really want to be there. And that's what we're bringing into the room. So learning, even if it's in moments, of how to be present to what actually you also need. And it's really about giving and receiving equally. So if we're not receiving that love and attention also, may not be from the person we're in the care partnership with, we have to find others. So it's like what Chodo was saying, that we have a group for people who are caring for other people, a support group, and we have, all different kinds of things. Like we need help. And part of our job is to get that support and to build that sangha or community that actually can hold us, because it is hard. And sometimes, as Chodo was saying, it is a shit show, and it's not going to go how we wished it could go. And how do we remember and help each other remember, like, oh yeah, it's hard. Oh man, it's hard. It's hard, and it's heavy and overwhelming. And how do we learn how to drop into the softness of our breath, even when it feels insane to do that? Put our hands in our lower belly and be like, I'm here. I'm here. Even when it feels like you can't. And the other part is, there's this expression caregiver that I just really find super unhelpful, because it's just like it sets us up to be depleted and have no boundaries. I'm the caregiver, just like here, and
so what would you like to use?
Care partner. So I love the word care partner. So like that, it's like, all right, I can only care for you as much as I'm also including caring for me. If I'm not receiving the support I need, that's going to be kind of off. And I was just thinking about our friend Joan Amaral, talking about, letting go of some things, but it's more about just like kind of opening your hands to like, oh, what is it that I need? What do I need? What would be nourishing in this moment? I might have 3 minutes. What would be actually nourishing? And to kind of really begin to register what's actually helpful, what's actually nourishing, instead of kind of trying to fill ourselves up with some junk.
There's loci.
Loki.
Loci.
That's not Loki. That's Scooter.
Oh, Scooter.
That's Loki.
So Mioshin has an empty chat box, and she'd like to either see something in the chat box or raise your hands.
Carol.
Yes, Carol.
You have to unmute.
Okay, there we go. I'm still, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Well, I'm still working somewhat up here by phone because it's part of my old practice and people that I'm still seeing or come back in and out and in and out. Of course, we're all getting older. But I think what I've done is it's a little off from what you're talking about, but it's really in there too, is that I think part of my commitment to staying in practice, in my own practice and working with others, is that I kind of make real the possibilities of what we need to talk about when we get older and look at and maybe plan for a little bit, and to understand that so many people really don't want to go there. So I've sort of become a subversive, and I work with the idea that I bring up subjects using myself, because I'm usually older than everybody, and as someone who's just understanding that there's so much yet to come in so many ways, because we're just not going to be here forever. And really, at times, being a bit forceful with that thought and an idea, and seeing how it's received and whether I can continue to go forward with it more. Very often people are sick and they're calling me because they don't think they're dying, they're just sick. And they really aren't just sick. But it's interesting for me to know that I've had a lot of experience, as some of you maybe know that I had a lot of experience with cancer through my life. I've had 5 cancers through my life, and I've come out of all of them, and I'm here. But I'm also very keen on the idea that we need to bring up the subject and not be afraid of it, and laugh at it, and talk about how kind of maybe ugly it's going to get for a while before we do not live here anymore, or how wonderful it will be as we say goodbye, and all of those other subjects. And I do it mostly because I think that is not done enough. And it isn't even, even in people who've been in therapy for years and there's always this underlying sense that something is leaving them, and they're leaving them, they're leaving themselves. They know it's somewhere inside of themselves, but they don't know what to do to talk about it, or to see how impossible a concept it really is. How can I be here and then not be here? How can someone else I love be here and then not be here? But
I think you bring up a really important point there, Carol.
So that's what I'm doing.
How do we engage in that conversation? So many folks are just afraid to go there. And it's rather silly because inevitably and ultimately we're all going to be there. So how do we engage in that conversation? And how do we not engage in that conversation? Because it's not always appropriate.
No.
You know, we don't want to go somewhere. It's not our job to lead. It's our job. It's not my job to lead. It's my job to accompany, to be with you. Again, going back to, I'm not here to fix. How can I be with you? Who haven't we heard from this evening?
I think Sandro had a question.
Maybe not.
Sandra,
did you have a question?
No.
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 Okay. That was a definite no.
Celia.
There's two things on my mind. First of all, I am curious about the cultural aspect of not sort of keeping a secret, of not talking about death and dying, as if we don't talk about it, then it's not happening. So when I was in the hospital, every chance I get curious about how the patient feels about this. And when I get a lot of time, they say, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not afraid of death. I'm actually very anxious about this process going from here to there, because many of them are stage 4. And that's the fear. They don't know what's going to come, more pain, whatever. So that's where they needed somebody to hold their hands with. And it's very fascinating to me. The family may not want to let go, but the patient is, especially, I mean, this hospital I'm in, majority of them are Roman Catholic. And they say, I'm going home. I'm going to be with my father. I mean, that's a language that I never heard before because I'm not a Christian. But for a little bit, I thought, this is fascinating. I need to really get into this. Like they have a peace in their mind, although they're suffering right now because they're in pain. And I'm quite grateful that I got a little window into this. And I'm going to continue to learn, obviously, because I only spent 3 months in a very intense situation. But I would have to say that there's the real question behind is how do you make that bridge between being a practicing Buddhist, working in the world that's predominantly Christian? And I go into a room, although I do my best to listen all that, but there's somehow at the end, I have a feeling like the patient was looking for something. They want their tradition in some way. So I don't know, you guys have more experience than, I only got 3 months of experience, so I love to hear some.
So how about dropping the idea of being a Buddhist? I can't tell you the number of times, walking into a room like this, without the rakasan, with this big Irish face of mine, and I walked into a room and said, hello, Father, thank you for coming. I'm like, you know what? It's a pleasure to be here. And can I sit down? Can I be with you? Can we talk? Yada, yada, yada. And they'll say, we'll have a conversation. And they may say, often I have been asked a few times, do you believe in God? And there'll be a rosary at the side of the table, there'll be a Bible, there'll be a statue of the Madonna. And I'll say, I can see that you believe in God. It's very obvious to me. And of course, God is in the room right now. I don't have to say, no, I don't believe in God, or yes, I believe in God. I can say, I can see that God is in the room right now, very present for you. And that's not me.
Skillful me.
It's skillful me. It's upaya. It's not me oh, I don't believe in God, I'm a Buddhist. It's like, God is in the room right now. And that has happened on more than one occasion. And then I can walk into the next room and I'll say, hi, my name is Chodo. I'm the chaplain on the floor today. I don't need you. I'm an atheist. Do you believe in God? Not so much. What do you believe in? I believe I'm in this room right now with you. It's like there's so many skillful means, and it's not lying. It's not omitting the truth. It's entering into a dialogue. And I too have had, I was working with someone in hospice for weeks, Marcelo, I think that's his name in the book anyway, Marcelo, and his wife had been sitting by the bedside for, I don't know, a month, never going home, having someone bringing a change of clothes. They'd been together for 50 years, they were both devout Catholics. And I would visit every day and he would talk about he wanted to die. And she would say, he's crazy, he's coming home, blah, blah, blah. I would just give him more food, more plantanos and black beans, yeah, I'm going to bring home. And then one day I said to him, Marcelo, what is it that you want? Rosa wants you to go home. What do you want? And he said, I want to go home and be in the garden with my father. Rather, as you were saying up there, Sina. And his wife said, you see, he's crazy. He's loco. He doesn't know what he's talking about. His father's dead. We don't have a garden. And I said, maybe we can look at this in a different way, Celia. I'm sorry, Marcel. Rosa, who is your father? Not your earthly father. Who's your father if it's not your earthly? She said, the heavenly father, right? Right. And where do you think Jesus might be right now? Sitting in the garden. Okay. Maybe that's where Marcella wants to be. And in that moment, it shifted for her. And she was able to allow him to die, which in actual fact, he did a week later, no, 3 days later. They moved. The beginning of this whole story was the nurse manager said, Chodo, we need the bed. Let's nuts and bolts of the healthcare system in New York. He was on the oncology floor. She said, Chodo, can you get Rosa to understand that he has to go to hospice, he's dying. We need the bed. Like, well, I'll try to let her know that. Anyway, so finally we get him down to hospice. And 3 days later, he died. It was such a beautiful, beautiful experience. I was sitting with him at the bedside the morning that he died. And the most incredible thing happened. He said, Chodo, I'm dying. I said, I know. And he said, you don't know. He said, I'm dying right now. And in that moment, he kind of began to choke, called the nurse in, we got him into bed, and he died, just like that. And he waited till Rosa went home to change. The first time in weeks. And that's when he chose to die. So that brings me to the mystery of death. It's so mysterious. We never, there are no answers. I think maybe some of you have your own stories about being with someone when they pass. It's like, whew, what just happened? Something just happened. So I'm sorry, Celia, to get back to the question, can one allow oneself to drop the identity? Our chaplain supervisor said, and she would have us, we're in our summer wage, she'd say, next week I want you to come in a shirt, a tie, and pants to see what it's like to walk down the floor as a non-Buddhist. And that was a really great exercise, to be able to not have my identity with me, but to have a different identity.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And I think that also to be really interested in what people are afraid of. And to be, in my experience, to be really interested if they're like, I'm afraid of dying. Okay, tell me about what you're afraid of, And I feel like a part of the work and why we love training so much is because we need to do a lot of work around our own fears. I know for myself, like getting really continuing to get intimate with my own fears and my own sense of helplessness and hopelessness, I find to be like one of the most powerful trainings for intimacy and love, actually. And I feel like that's a continuous practice, you know, that we're never done, but to also have community around being with those feelings. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, like the New York Zen Center is sometimes known for our training programs, but you know, what we're mostly interested in is community in our Sangha. And many of them are here tonight, so just so sweet. And Showen's on the move after she's made her tea. And
she's constantly testing her teacher, Showen.
But I think it's just, again, the depth of practice and practicing with community is really the key for resilience. And but resilience is really like sometimes like having a big stretchy band, but it's about really like deep groundedness, so that there are just many more possibilities.
What do you think, Gail?
Yeah, what's cooking over there, Gail?
What's cooking in Gail's mind right now?
Hi, I'm sorry to be late. I'm in my office and my internet went down.
Okay.
So I was, but I got some help and troubleshooted and changed some plugs around. And anyway, I'm just kind of soaking it all in. I'm a counselor. I do not work with the deaf and dying at this time, but I was just really drawn to the description of what you do and the integration, you know, of your spirituality and with the work that you're doing. So I'm just kind of soaking it all in, and I really like what you were just saying about self-care, you know, that we have to give to ourselves as we give to others. And I just really loved your definition there of resilience being really deep groundedness, and how that gives way to so many possibilities. I love that. Yeah, I just really am enjoying the conversation so far. So no questions, really. Thank you.
Well, it could get really bad right now.
I'm sorry?
The conversation could take a really bad turn right now. Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, one thing I did want to, since you brought up integration, and one of the things that's always been very important for us in our training programs, so whether it's our foundations in contemplative care, which is really for everybody, which is what we're most interested in. And then we just also launched 3 months ago a fellowship for physicians, which is a year-long training, is these 3 pillars of attention and intrapersonal, like really looking at like and doing your work inside of yourself. And then at least another third of the training is really geared around, as we talked about earlier, interpersonal relationships, your family, your dogs, your whoever's around. Like not, and then the last part is the clinical work. That's like the gravy. So contemplative care for us, or contemplative medicine, as we've been thinking about it lately, is really that movement of like that deep groundedness in our own experience, in our relationships, because otherwise we can't really care or offer medicine if we're not taking the medicine. So for us, it's really like at least 2/3 of it is really, how are you doing? How are you doing? Do you have people in your life who can really support you? How do you nourish loving, attentive relationships in your own mind, in your life? And then again, it's like the gravy, is that great Raymond Carver poem talks about, like, and then it's gravy, you know, how we serve the world is just a natural flow.
Joe, I haven't heard from you this evening.
Sorry, I was almost dozing off for a second.
Oh, that's good.
That must have been that interesting.
No, I was, where am I? I guess, right now at this present moment, my mom is 92, and I have sort of developed this sense of being a committed caretaker for her until the end of her life, and trying to make the quality of her life as it reaches the end to be as high as possible, as meaningful as possible, and the thing that I'm struggling with right now is not so much that the commitment to her, but maintaining, as we talked about before, the boundary between her stuff and my stuff. And with a parent, this boundary becomes much, much, much more complex. And given our histories and such. And I find right now being a male, and sort of maintaining a rigidness in some of my relationships where I feel especially vulnerable and in over my head and frailty. There's sort of a rigidness that has manifested and with my mom, and a protectiveness. My question is how do I soften that rigidness as it's going to become more as the end becomes closer. I mean, she's well now. She's very healthy. She does suffer from osteoporosis, and if she does fall, things will break. So that's sort of what I'm working on right now, is that softening, and so that I can really be with her and yet tuned into my experience and what it's like for me at this point. So thank you.
And do you have a regular practice, Joe, of sitting?
I do. It's a Vajrayana practice, which is somatic, which is I find very helpful right now. And occasionally Vipassana. So the practice has been very helpful, and I think it's allowed me to be as present with all that's going on as much as I can.
It sounds like, Joe, that you're maybe giving more than you're receiving, which is often the case, of course, when someone is ailing. But how do you take on the possibility that I'm giving too much? I need to take care of myself.
Yeah, I balance that. If I may add, I balance that with sort of a recognition of what my mom has done for me throughout her entire life. And I see that there's a deficit right now, and it's sometimes painful and it's sometimes overwhelming. But I balance that with what my mom has done for me in her entire life.
Right.
So is that sufficient? I don't know.
Well, only you would know, Joe, and I just feel a lot of tenderness towards you. That's what I know. And just feeling you and appreciating your tiredness and actually, appreciating how it is to carry. And only you know what you would need, but to keep it as a live question. And wow, what is it that I need? And if I'm giving and receiving equally, what is it that I also need to receive? And to reach out for support. It's good to talk to other humans about what that's like. And there's also Chodo runs a support group for folks who are taking care of their family, and just encourage you to come to that if you can. And also, just for all of us to remember that 75% of the care offered in this country, in the United States, I don't know what it is in other countries because I'm ignorant, but it's 75 of our friends and family taking care of friends and family. So you have a lot of company, and my wish for you is also just to have some company in this enormous and moving project that you're on with your mother, this journey. Also your devotion to her, your gratitude to her.
Yeah. And say, it's clear that your mother did a great job of raising her son. To be able to be with her now in such a loving way. And I'm wondering, would mom think, Joe, take care of yourself, without even having to say it. There's a wonderful Zen expression of seeing folks with grandmotherly eyes. Right? So can you kind of put yourself in the role of grandmother, taking care of mom, but also looking in the mirror and seeing grandmother, taking care of you. So seeing the world through grandmotherly eyes, but it's not just one way. So what would grandma say to you? She might say, Joe, you need to rest. You need to take a break. It's all going to be okay. Both, you have this beautiful bond between the two of you. It's all going to be okay. So beautiful, Joe. Thank you for allowing us to be in that space with you. Yeah, there's Jizo Bodhisattva.
Taking care of a little baby.
Taking care of the little baby.
Taking care of a little Joe.
How can Joe get in touch with Chodo Sensei's group?
Oh, that's easy.
Zencare.org.
Zencare.org. Or just, it's probably easier just to email me directly and I will point you in the right direction. Actually, email me directly and I can set that up for you.
Okay. Thank you.
It's once a month. It's a beautiful group, and these folks are all taking care of parents or spouses.
And Joe, you know his email address?
We just messaged it to him.
Oh, good, thanks. Well, I think we have room for one more quick question or comment before we have to end this time together.
Shuso, any questions or comments?
Well, I was feeling very grateful when I began tonight, and that has just deepened. And I've heard things this evening about my teachers that I'd never heard before. And I appreciate the tenderness and the opening. And each moment that my practice continues, sometimes deepens, sometimes feeling like it's popping up, but I experience that relationship between allowing for everything that is popping up in me, holding it, to how that I am in relationship to the world. And that's just been everything in my life, from the chaplaincy work to the chaplaincy work in the Sangha and family. So I'm just, I am a well of gratitude tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Shuso.
And Sandra, you had your hand up.
Yes. I want to ask you about the experience that you have, because in Brazil, Buddhism is not the main religion, and neither in USA too. And I want to know how you feel, how you both feel, the need to talk and to know about people of other religions, to know a little bit about different religions, to take care about the other, to know how to get better in his or her world. If you, in your formation or your experience, how you feel that. And thank you. Lots of gratitude for both of us.
Thank you, Sandra. You know, I would just say, I read lots of world religion books and went to churches and mosques and all of those things, you know, like that you do in those kinds of courses. Visit a church, visit this, visit that. And what I found the most educational was being at the bedside and Chodo. But being at the bedside and really asking each person, tell me about your faith. Tell me about, because I never met a Roman Catholic, a Jewish person, even a Buddhist, or anybody who actually had the same spirituality, even if they were in the same religion. So their expression, to be like this amazing thing that we have in this life, is our curiosity. And to be just really interested. So tell me about your relationship. And the beautiful thing about religion or spirituality, who cares what we call it? I don't actually. Some people do, which is okay and important actually. But to be really interested in those relationships. So to me, having, you know, inquiring about the relationship between this amazing imam that I had the privilege to be with and his relationship with Muhammad was so amazing and so interesting and surprising. And relationships with Mary, with bodhisattvas, with all kinds of things. And none of that was in a book. You know, and I found that I learned so much more. I think maybe it was helpful to read like maybe a world religion book to get the big ideas. But the inside experience of people's spiritual and religious life is so amazing. It's awe-inspiring. So for me, just being open and interested and engaged, to me, is like the best and most delicious.
That is a beautiful ending too.
Not yet.
We haven't ended.
Not yet.
We're going to read a couple of poems.
We're going to read 2 poems.
Can you find kindness for me? And then we could stand in with it. There's a book that you may well be interested in. It's a collection of stories from Buddhist teachers and clinicians, doctors, and Koshin and a wonderful guy, Matt Weingast, pulled this book together. It's called Awake at the Bedside. It has a lot of beautiful stories about experiences at the end of life, awake at the bedside. So there's a couple of poems. This one is by Naomi Shihab Nye. Naomi Shihab Nye is a Palestinian American, and she writes beautiful, beautiful poetry. Get the opportunity. Before you know what kindness is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go. So you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness, how you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out of the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indian in a white poncho lies dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be you, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with the sorrow. You must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows, and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to mail letters and purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, "It is you I have been looking for," and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. Delicious. Koshin will finish with one of his favorite poems. Poetry, by the way, is a wonderful, can often be a wonderful inroad when being with people who are dying, to read poems, to open them up.
And I'm sorry, who is the author of that book again?
The book is Awake at the Bedside, and it's
by you. That's great. So we'll send the link later.
Okay.
Great. Wow. Thank you so much.
We have one more poem, Miyoshi.
One more.
Anyway.
Very short. And it's by our friend Marie Howe, who's a dear friend of ours and a dear friend of our Zen Center. She and her dog were at the Zen Center on Monday for Zazen. The gate. I had no idea that the gate I would step through to finally enter this world would be the space my brother's body made. He was a little taller than me, a young man, but grown himself by then, done at 28. Having folded every sheet, rinsed every glass he would ever rinse under the cold and running water. "This is what you've been waiting for," he used to say to me. And I'd say, "What?" And he'd say, "This," holding up my cheese and mustard sandwich. And I'd say, "What?" And he'd say this, sort of looking around. We're so grateful to you. Thank you, Myoshin. May you all be well. May you find the resources and support and depth of practice that truly nourish you.
And sign up for our center update.
Yeah, sign up for our mailing list. But most important, root yourself deeply in life so that you can be supported and nourished and serve this world.